$6 billion, 124.5 million US dollars. Wow.
Hmm.
That's the projection for the global market for hernia repair devices in 2025. It's kind of a staggering number, really.
It is, isn't it? And, a figure like that, it's not just abstract. It represents, well, a whole ecosystem of innovation, manufacturing, patient care.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're digging into today. We've got this detailed market report, and the idea is to pull out the key stuff, where the 1.8 is now, and maybe more importantly, where it's heading.
Exactly. And for anyone listening who wants to get the lowdown quickly, but, properly,
Right.
this is sort of your concentrated briefing.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through the data, and our mission really is to map out the main trends, the regional differences, and what's actually driving growth in this hernia repair device market globally.
Yeah, and this report, it gives us a pretty comprehensive look. It covers the history, like 2021 to 2024.
Okay.
Then it gives an estimate for this year, 2025, and projections, forecasts, all the way out to 2033.
So good long-term view then.
A really solid view of the trajectory, yeah.
And that trajectory seems to be pointing, well, distinctly upward.
Definitely upwards. The report projects quite a jump.
Yep.
From that $924.5 million figure in 2025
Yeah.
up to $511.6 million by 2033,
Wow.
which works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 4.20%.
Okay, 4.2%. For a market already that big, that kind of steady climb, that's definitely significant.
Absolutely. I mean, 4.2% for medical devices, it suggests pretty healthy, steady demand and ongoing innovation.
Right.
Now, if we look at where this money is, geographically speaking, for 2025, North America's got the biggest slice.
So big.
Over 37% of the global revenue. That's about $266.07 million.
Over a third. That's a dominant share.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes about the healthcare system there, maybe the prevalence too.
Mm-hmm. Established infrastructure, definitely. But Europe's not, insignificant either in terms of current share.
Okay, how does Europe stack up?
Europe's got over 29% of the revenue. So that's $1,736.11 million for 2025.
Right, so put North America and Europe together, and that's the lion's share right now.
It really is, yeah. They dominate the current landscape.
Okay, so those are the current heavyweights. What about the rest of the world? Asia-Pacific always feels like the region to watch for growth, right?
It absolutely does. And the numbers back that up, sort of. For 2025, APAC holds around 24% of the revenue.
Okay.
That's about $1,469.88 million.
Still substantial. And the others?
South America's over 4%, $232.73 million. The Middle East is also around 4%, $244.98 million. And Africa is about 2.2% with $134.74 million.
Got it. So North America's clearly out front in 2025. But I think the report hinted at something interesting about where the fastest growth is expected.
Yes, that's a really key point from the report. While North America leads now,
Yeah.
the Asia-Pacific region is projected to grow the fastest. We're talking a CAGR of 6.9% between 2025 and 2033.
Wow, 6.9%. That's
Yeah.
considerably faster than the overall average. What was North America's projected growth again?
North America's projected at 2.7% over the same period.
Okay, so 6.9 versus 2.7. That really signals a potential shift, doesn't it?
It really does. The center of gravity for growth seems to be moving towards APAC.
So we should definitely be keeping an eye on what's happening there. What does the report suggest is driving that really fast growth in APAC?
Well, several things, really. One big factor is simply expanding access to healthcare for huge populations.
Makes sense.
As countries like China and India improve their healthcare infrastructure, well, more people can actually get treatment for things like hernias.
Right.
Plus, there's growing awareness of the treatments available. And, linked to economic growth, more people can actually afford the procedures.
Ah, okay. So it's access, awareness, and affordability kind of coming together.
Exactly. Now, this market isn't just one big thing, obviously. The report breaks it down by product types, procedure types.
Right, let's unpack that. What are the main categories on the product side?
On the device side, you've got things like polymer and prosthetic mesh. That's your sort of standard synthetic stuff. Then there are biologic materials. These are derived from natural sources, often used for more complex repairs.
Interesting.
And of course, surgical instruments and endoscopy equipment needed for the procedures.
Okay, the tools and the materials.
Right.
And what about the procedures themselves? How are they categorized?
The main split is between open tension repair and tension-free repair.
Tension versus tension-free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open tension is more the traditional approach, directly stitching the tissues. Tension-free usually involves using mesh for support, putting less strain on the surrounding area.
Gotcha. Okay, so that gives us a really good baseline. The market size, the growth forecast, the key regions now and who's growing fastest, and the main product and procedure types sets the stage nicely.
Indeed. It's good to have that foundation before we look at the why, the drivers, the trends shaping it all.
So, just a quick recap then. We're talking a massive market, over $6 billion now, heading towards $8.5 billion by 2033.
Correct.
North America's the current leader, but watch out for Asia Pacific. That's where the really rapid growth is expected.
That sums it up nicely. And within that, you have different materials like synthetic versus biologic meshes
Right.
and different techniques like open tension versus tension-free repair.
And speaking of techniques, I think the report singled one out as growing particularly fast.
It did, yes. The tension-free repair category, that's highlighted as the fastest growing segment.
Tension-free. Okay. Why is that taking off so quickly?
Well, the report suggests it's down to perceived advantages. Often using mesh, these tension-free repairs are associated with potentially faster recovery times for patients
Okay, less downtime.
and potentially lower rates of the hernia coming back compared to the older tension methods. Plus, the rise of minimally invasive surgery often uses these tension-free techniques.
Ah, so it ties into that minimally invasive trend too. Makes sense. Okay, so we've got the numbers, the regions, the fastest growing technique. What about the big picture drivers? What's fundamentally pushing this whole market forward?
So the report points to a few key drivers. Number one, probably the most basic, is the rising incidence of hernias globally.
Just more people getting them.
Essentially, yeah. Aging populations,
Right.
certain lifestyle factors, they increase the risk. So naturally, more demand for repairs.
Okay, that's fundamental. What else?
Second is technology. Continuous development, new products, better materials.
Like the biologic meshes you mentioned.
Exactly. Innovation in meshes, better surgical tools, even robotics getting involved in hernia repair. All that contributes to growth.
So more cases and better ways to fix them.
Precisely. And the third big driver is increasing awareness and access to healthcare globally.
Right.
As more people can actually get to a doctor and know about treatment options, demand goes up.
That connects back to what you said about APAC and other developing regions, doesn't it?
It does, very much so. Better access is key there. Now, it's not all smooth sailing, of course.
Yeah.
The report also flags some potential restraints.
Okay, so what could slow things down? What are the headwinds?
Well, one significant factor is cost. The cost of mesh repair specifically.
Ah, the devices and the surgery can be expensive.
They can be, yeah, especially compared to potentially less expensive alternatives if those emerge or gain traction. It's a barrier, particularly in, let's say, more price-sensitive healthcare systems.
Okay, cost is one. What's the other main restraint?
The other one is the whole regulatory environment and potential litigation issues around device design or outcomes.
Right. Medical devices are heavily regulated.
Extremely. So any concerns about safety or effectiveness that can lead to more scrutiny, delays in getting new products approved, maybe even lawsuits, all of that can definitely put a damper on growth.
Yeah, we've seen that pattern elsewhere. Regulatory hurdles, legal risks, they can certainly be a challenge for manufacturers.
Exactly. So the outlook is generally positive, but those are definitely factors to watch.
Okay, so recapping the forces at play. More hernias, better tech, and more access are pushing growth. But costs and regulatory or legal issues could act as a brake. It's complex.
It is. And layered on top of that, the report identifies some important market trends, too.
Okay, what trends are shaping things?
One key trend is that increasing development and use of absorbable and biological meshes.
Right, we touched on those materials. What's the appeal there? Why the shift?
It really comes down to biocompatibility. The idea is these materials might integrate better with the body's own tissues.
So, less risk of rejection or infection?
That's the potential advantage, yes. As tissue engineering advances, we'll likely see even more focus on these biologic options.
Okay, a move towards more natural integration. Seemed like a good direction. What's the other big trend?
The other major one is the continued adoption of minimally invasive surgery for hernia repair.
Laparoscopic, robotic,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Exactly. Smaller incisions, maybe less pain after surgery, faster recovery times. Patients and surgeons often prefer these methods if the outcomes are good.
Yeah, less invasive is usually more popular, isn't it?
It generally is. So those two trends, biologic materials and minimally invasive techniques, are really driving a lot of the innovation right now.
So it's not just about volume, it's a real evolution in how hernias are being repaired.
Interesting. It is. And when you look at the regional details in the report, you see how these global trends play out differently in different places.
Okay, let's dive into that regional picture a bit more then. North America, biggest share now, but slower growth projected.
That's right. Market size in 2025, $266.07 million.
Mhm.
Projected CGR just 2.7% through 2033. The U.S. makes up most of that, growing slightly slower at 2.5%.
And why the slower growth despite the big market?
It's a mature market.
Mhm.
High prevalence, yes. Advanced procedures are common. Minimally invasive is widely used. Good healthcare system. Decent reimbursement. But maybe less room for explosive growth compared to other regions.
Okay, mature and steady. What about Europe? Second largest share, slightly better growth projection?
Yep, Europe's at $1776.11 million in 2025, projected CGR of 3.3%. Germany, UK, Russia are big players there. The UK, interestingly, is projected a bit higher at 4.1%.
And the drivers in Europe, similar to North America.
Pretty similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Aging population, rising healthcare costs, driving efficiency maybe,
Yeah.
adoption of modern techniques, ongoing investment in healthcare R&D.
Okay, now the big one for growth, Asia Pacific.
Right. APAC starts at $1,469.88 million in 2025, but projected to grow at that strong 6.9% CAGR, reaching nearly $2.5 billion by 2033.
And within APAC.
China and India are key. India in particular shows a projected growth rate of 8.8%.
Wow, nearly 9%. What's fueling that fire?
It's that combination again. Rising healthcare spending, better infrastructure, huge populations with growing hernia incidence, more awareness, rising incomes making treatment affordable, better access generally, and adopting those minimally invasive techniques too. It's kind of a perfect storm for growth.
It really sounds like it. Okay, what about South America?
South America, $232.73 million in 2025, expected CAGR of 4.9%. Brazil and Argentina lead, with Brazil slightly higher at 5.5%.
Drivers there, similar pattern.
Similar themes, yes.
Yeah.
Aging populations, rising obesity contributing to hernias, improving healthcare infrastructure, more minimally invasive surgery, rising healthcare spending overall.
Okay, solid growth across South America. And finally, the Middle East and Africa.
The Middle East is at $244.98 million in 2025, projected CGR 5.4%. Saudi Arabia, UAE are key markets. Africa is smaller, $134.74 million, projected CGR 4.5%. Sure, South Africa is the biggest market there.
And the growth factors.
Again, adopting more sophisticated surgery, rising healthcare costs, growing hernia incidence. In Africa specifically, improving access to even basic early hernia intervention is also a big factor, alongside infrastructure improvements.
So even in the regions with smaller current market sizes, the underlying drivers, better access, better tech, are still pushing things forward, just maybe at a different pace.
That's a great way to put it. The core drivers are global, but the local economic and healthcare context really shapes the growth rate you see in each region.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. It's a real deep dive into this major global market. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And just to boil it down, it's a big market, getting bigger. North America leads now, but Asia Pacific is where the fastest expansion is happening.
And within the market, that tension-free repair approach is really gaining momentum, suggesting a shift in preferred surgical methods.
Correct. And it's all driven by more cases, better technology, and wider healthcare awareness.
But we also need to remember the potential breaks, the cost of these advanced repairs, and the whole regulatory and legal side of things.
Precisely. Those are the key counterbalances to watch. It makes for a dynamic picture.
It really does. And considering all the different growth speeds, the different market sizes,
Yeah.
it does make you wonder, doesn't it? What happens after 2033? Could we see maybe brand new innovations, new materials perhaps, or surgical techniques actually emerging from regions like APAC, given the rapid growth? Could that reshape the whole global market down the line? Definitely food for thought.